أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وعلى من اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. All praise be to Allah, the Creator, the Sustainer, the Cherisher of the universe. I bear witness that there is no God except Allah, and that Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, is his final messenger and servant. Assalamu alaikum. Happy to have the opportunity to speak to you. I'm asking Allah to help me with the miracle of confining my talk to 20 minutes, but hopefully I'll be able to do that, inshallah. There's so much to get through and it's very important. But I will confine it, inshallah. I think the first thing I want to do is put a backdrop to the rest of my talk by mentioning a few verses that I think are very relevant. The first one, perhaps I should have mentioned the one before it, verse number 12, which talks about avoiding suspicion and backbiting, because I think it's also relevant to the issue I'm talking about. But this particular verse, which is God addressing people, humanity in general, not just Muslims, is addressing everybody, is saying that we have created you from a single pair, a male and a female, and formed you into nations and tribes, that you may know each other, not that you may despise each other. Verily the most honourable of you in the sight of God is the most God-consciously righteous of you, and Allah, God, has full knowledge and is well acquainted with all things. It means that diversity is meant to be. It's not a clash of civilizations being set up that we have to fight each other, but diversity is part of the divine plan. It's meant to be, and there is a very central message saying we have to develop understandings and agreements and dialogue and discussions. And that was the inspiration for me setting up my business, Diversity Connect, because we have a role to play to lead the world's diversity into the right direction. And we need to be part of that effort. The next verse I want to mention, which I think is a pivotal verse in the Quran about community relations, is these particular verses. And I won't read it word for word. Verse number 7 talks about perhaps those that you may have enmity between you and them. Now, one day God will or may make you friends with them. There's a possibility that Allah can change those things. Verse number 8 is saying that God does not forbid you respecting those that have not made war against you because of your religion or driven you out from your homes, that you respect them and deal with them justly. In fact, the word used here is tabarru ilayhim, the same word used for how Muslims should deal with their parents. That kindness, that gentleness, that sacrifice and commitment to the relationship is also offered to Muslims, suggested to Muslims. So that's how they deal with everybody, not just with other Muslims, with everybody. But then it talks about verse number 9, who Allah wants to restrict the relationship with, and that's the people who have fought against you because of your religion or because they've driven you out from your homes or supported others from driving you out from your homes. And I think this is another important thing I want to also put before you. When we talk about qadr and free will, there are some things, many things in fact, that we have no free will over. No one chose what colour skin they were going to be born with before they were born. No one chose what country they were going to be born in, or what gender, male or female. And no one chose whether they're going to be born into a wealthy family or a poor family, into a slave family or into a influential and famous family. No one chose their relatives or their mother or father. And no one chose what cultural environment they're going to be born into, or a war-torn country or a peaceful country. But all these things don't make us any better or worse than anybody else. What makes us better, as Allah teaches, is how we relate to Him, our submission to Him, number one, and then how we relate to other people, His creation, how we deal with that. And for me, during my term as Islamic Council of Victoria President, which I was unfortunate enough to be in that position during September the 11th and other things, when there was a lot of hatred and us and them type of attitudes and intolerance and accusations and so on. This particular teaching is 1400 years ago, highlighting from my perspective that diversity issues are not something new. They're referred to in the Bible in many parables and stories. They're referred to in the Quran and the Hadith. And so it's nothing new. And so we shouldn't be surprised nowadays that we still have some issues that we need to deal with. This particular parable talks about a ship, multi-deck ship, and Allah or somebody allocated the positions where different passengers on that ship were to be seated as a starting point. And some people were allocated seats on the top deck, other people were allocated seats on the lower decks. And people on the lower decks on the journey began to go up to get fresh air, to attend to their needs, to ask questions, to talk, to see the sights and so on. But that eventually started to annoy the people who were allocated seats on the top deck. Until one time in the journey, one person got an axe and started to make a hole in the bottom of the boat. And that frightened the people on the top deck. They came running down and asked, "What are you doing? Are you crazy?" And the person with the axe making the hole in the bottom of the boat said, "I've been coming up to you to the top deck, but you've been troubled much, and I have to get water, I have to attend to my needs." And the parable finishes saying that if they prevent that person from continuing what he was doing, put a hole in the bottom of the boat, they will save him and themselves. And if they don't, if they allow him to continue, they will all perish together. That told me a number of different things. And the first thing was that we're all on the same boat. In fact, Allah, when He's describing us, humanity, He uses the word fulk, the same word used for the ark, Noah's ark. Fulk. حَمَلْنَاكُمْ فِي الْفُلْكِ الْمَشْحُونِ. That reinforces the idea we're all on the same boat. And what one person does, one organisation does, one government does, one religious group does, affects everybody else, whether we know it or not, whether it happens straight away or later. We all have an influence on each other. And that influence should be a positive and good influence. There's many more lessons in there. And that also comes with people who have a privilege of power, like the people on the top deck, have an obligation. Those who have a privilege of knowledge, whether it's Islam or something else, those who have an expertise in something, have an obligation to reach out and pass on that benefit to other people. And that's a very quick glimpse of perhaps the parable that I found on the internet. But it's important, I think, to start off with a number of different understandings. Thank you. And that is not to generalise. And I learned that very important lesson in regards to other things as well, including the media. Not everyone in the media is the same. You have to deal with people individual by individual, journalist by journalist, politician by politician. There are rat-bag politicians in every party. There are rat-bag journalists, and there are the good journalists and the good politicians. And the same thing with the Muslim community. There are rat-bag Muslims and there are good Muslims, and there are same thing with other people. So here Allah is saying not all of them are alike. People of the book, of the people of the book, are a portion that stand for right and justice. They rehearse the signs of Allah all night long, and they prostrate themselves. And that again highlights another issue. Please don't treat Islam as a label for a religion and a people who started 1400 years ago. Islam did not start 1400 years ago. Islam started from day one of creation, where Allah demanded from creation that creation submits to Him. Islam has been what has been revealed throughout all the prophets, and Hadith suggests 124,000 prophets. And the obligation is not just to Muslims of the message that we have. Here, for example, in the Quran, I just want to highlight the bottom portion there, that is because they say, we have no duty to the Gentiles. They speak a lie concerning Allah knowingly. To think like others before us, the Jews and the Christians perhaps in the past, that they had no obligation to deal with each other justly, or have other obligations perhaps to help poor people outside their community, that's forging a lie against Allah. Justice in Islam is justice for all, not just for Muslims. Human rights is human rights for all, not just for Muslims. So we should stand up, whether it's a Muslim being dealt with, locked up, abused anywhere in the world, or whether it's a non-Muslim. We should stand up equally, asking for the same justice. And the reason we deal and participate in the community is because to fulfill our obligations. And I won't read that just to make sure that I have enough time to finish. But we also should be reminded that when the conditions became really unbearable in the Prophet's time, the Holy Prophet, in the month of Rajab, the 5th year of the prophethood, gave advice to his companions to this effect when they had to flee Mecca. He said, "You may well migrate to Abyssinia, Ethiopia, for there is a king who was not Muslim, who does not allow any kind of injustice to anyone, and there is good in his land. You should remain there until the time that Allah provides a remedy for your affliction." So we need to understand that we can find justice outside Muslim lands, perhaps even more nowadays than we can find justice in so-called Muslim lands. Some of the characteristics of excluded communities, unconnected communities, communities that feel left out, is that they are unstable within themselves. There's a lot of turmoil, and the quality of life in that community is usually a lower quality of life in terms of material things, in terms of the amount of earning, levels of earning, and so on. Also, there's low social cohesion, and that's a weakness, how they relate to each other, how they help each other, how they connect, and so on. They have weak strategies and ineffective implementation. And I could speak on all these issues, and perhaps we need to be speaking on all these issues together at a later time. But why is it important to participate in the community? And that's because it's a religious obligation. It's because we need to live out Islam, not just learn it and teach it and read about it. That's fine, that's fantastic learning and teaching, but we need to actually express it and live it out. It needs to affect other people, not just us. It's a part of this. We need to position ourselves as part of the solution, not part of the problem. If we're not there dealing with issues, then to a large extent usually we'll be positioned as part of the problem. And it's about engaging and influencing sincerely other people's hearts and minds. Everything's now is focused on everyone's trying to attract everyone's hearts and minds. And we are no different, but we need to do it for the good reasons, for the benefit of people. And to also own the messages that are coming out about our community. If you're participating, you can give your own message rather than allowing somebody else to tell people what you think and what you believe and what your motivations are. A lack of participation leads to a lot of different and dangerous things: isolation, detachment, resentment. Remember these things with the parable at the beginning, delusions, and has very negative other impacts. Some of the barriers faced by the community, the excluded communities, maybe because, I put these in brackets, so-called religious values. They may be founded, or they may be just customs and things that we assume is religious. We need to be very careful about what we say, what is Islam and what isn't Islam, and make sure what we say is Islam is really Islam. Other ethnic and cultural values that can interfere. Stereotypes and prejudices that we have against others can stop us from mixing with them, because we assume all sorts of different things about other people, like they assume things about us, whether we're terrorists and so on. Lots of assumptions are being made in all directions, and we need to accept our share of the assumptions and stereotypes that we have against other people. Peer group pressure telling us don't get involved with these people. You have to be involved there or there. And that's okay. Peer group pressure can be positive, it can be negative. But we need to continually analyse and evaluate it. Negative media can also impede. A lack of accessibility to services and information, isolation, lack of language, lack of awareness, global unrest. Some more barriers. Being involved to talk to other communities, maybe because we're afraid of being converted. They're going to try and convert us. Not always the case at all. And if you've got a strong iman and understanding, then nothing can convert you. Afraid of doing something forbidden. Is haram? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. You need to find out. But you really need to find out and then take the next step. Assumed that you're going to be compromising your religion somehow. Afraid of the unknown. How people are going to react if I talk to them about Islam. They're going to laugh at me. People don't know what to do. Well, getting involved with other communities, interfaith dialogue, what do we do? Getting plugged into other people who can mentor you and show you what to do, who have been there before. And we need to bring people on board and not just isolate ourselves if we're doing the work. That needs to branch out and extend. Lack of experience, being afraid of rejection, afraid of controversy. Leaders don't have vision. Some leaders do, some leaders don't. And I'll compliment FAMSY for bringing up this topic and thank them. I think it's important that if we're going to have the change that we talk about, I've got 5 minutes, that we need to have the vision that FAMSY has put on the table now. Language and understanding experience. And we're getting messages already. I mean, there's lots of other messages, but I just grabbed these because they're local and you know it. Lack of respect. I mean, the guy is saying, if you don't respect us, why shouldn't we respect other people? Is there an issue with respect, us respecting other people? Are we looking down on the other people and they're picking up the signs? Being proud to be an Australian, is that something against Islam, being proud of your country in an Islamic way? I'm not saying become nationalistic. Nationalism is not on. But having pride in your country and your community, the whole community, what's wrong with that? And you can see there's a lot of issues that if we don't deal with them, they're not going to go away. If we continue doing more of the same, they're going to continue. So what are the benefits? That we plan and work together. We form alliances and partnerships with others that can be very fruitful and helpful. We influence people's hearts and minds in the positive and sincere direction. Establish confidence and trust, and that's lacking. Dispel suspicions and fears and stereotypes about our community. Facilitate understanding. Resolve conflicts in non-violent ways. You don't have to wait until tensions become so bad that violence breaks out. Social cohesion and harmony is strengthened. And normalise the differences so people even looking different becomes normal. People aren't threatened by the way you dress or your accent and so on. But there are 4 basic principles I think are important that the government has recognised that if that's going to work, then we all, every single community, every single faith, every single ethnic group has an obligation, and that's to respect the institutions, the law and so on. That brings and keeps this society connected. Respect each person. So like we want to have respect for our religion and what we want to perform, our religious duties, we also have to allow other people to respect their right to practice and express their religion. Fairness for each person. So equal opportunity and access and benefits for all. So what benefits our community has to offer, we need to make sure that that's benefiting everybody, not just our community. I won't go into too much detail here. The low social cohesion, actually that starts, that's where our community is. It starts on a micro level, so individuals start connecting. Then the group, more individuals connect together and start reaching out to the wider community. I won't go too much into that because of my time limit. There are lots of different ways to connect to the wider community: volunteering, philanthropy, intervention, mentoring, leadership, partnerships, and so on. I also won't go into details here. I want to mention rather here that it doesn't entail interfaith dialogue and intercultural dialogue doesn't have to compromise your faith at all. You have to have something significant to say, and people and you need to be able to listen. It's about relationships, partnerships. It's not about messages. You have to, with the message, develop a relationship with people. I won't go into all that. I have to stop very quickly. There's a few other pictures of people getting together from different communities and different faiths. And it continues branching out. Finally, bringing people is quite easy from different backgrounds, and that they do provide support. And like the final picture, the lower right-hand side suggests, it begins with you. You can see Jamal Hassan, previous president of the Islamic Council of Victoria, pointing as if he's saying, what are you going to do? I'll leave you there. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I apologise to the organisers for going above my time.